There is a kind of memory that is older than thought. It does not speak in words, and yet it echoes in the deepest chambers of our being. It is the quiet knowing that you are not merely a human being having a temporary spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being sent here to walk the dust of this world with a mission cloaked in flesh. Before you ever learned how to speak, you had already agreed to something eternal. You see, your soul made a vow before it came into time. Not in the way contracts are made with ink and paper, but in the way stars are placed in the sky, unshakable and intentional. You were not flung here at random. You were chosen. There was a dialogue between your spirit and the divine, a sacred agreement. And that agreement shapes everything about your journey, the family you were born into, not a coincidence, the gifts that stir in your chest, not an accident, the battles you've had to face, even from your earliest years. They were known, not that they were deserved, but that they were faced with purpose. Your strengths and weaknesses, your dreams and doubts, your detours and delays, all of it flows from the blueprint your soul accepted. And what was the agreement? It was to be a light in a world that often forgets what light looks like. It was to bring compassion where there is cruelty, to bring courage where there is fear, to bring love where it is most needed and least earned. You agree to walk through this life with wounds and wisdom, not because you are weak, but because you are powerful enough to turn suffering into strength. This is why challenges never come to destroy you. They come to awaken what is dormant within you. There is no pain without purpose, no burden without blessing. But when we forget that we signed this contract, we begin to live as victims, when we were always meant to live as victors. Even in your darkest hour, there is a power within you that the world cannot comprehend. It's the breath of the Almighty Himself. That breath did not fade when you entered this world. It's still in you now, beating with every heartbeat, waiting for you to remember who you are. Yes, you have free will. You are allowed to doubt, allowed to fall, allowed to walk away, but you are never abandoned. The one who sent you walks beside you, whether you sense him or not. The silence is not absence, it is trust. And trust is the highest honor a teacher can give to the student. It means you have what it takes. So if the road is hard, don't curse the path. Remember the contract. You weren't promised comfort. You were promised meaning. You weren't sent to be safe. You were sent to be strong, not through force, but through faith, not through fear, but through love. And now, in this very moment, something powerful happens when you choose to remember. When you awaken to the truth that your soul was never designed to blend in, but to stand apart, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Send me," that's when your real strength rises. You don't need more motivation. You need more memory. Remember what you agreed to. Remember the light you carry. Remember the God who trusted you with this journey. You are not weak. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You signed a soul contract with God. And that means you are much more powerful than you think. You are much more powerful than you think. And that power comes not from your body but from your origin, your soul. The truth is, long before you were wrapped in skin and given a name, your essence existed. Your soul is not new. It carries memories not stored in your brain, but buried deep in your spirit. There is a knowledge within you that doesn't come from teachers or textbooks. It comes from a time before time. Many people think life begins at birth, but that's only the beginning of your earthly chapter. The soul predates the body. It is not bound by time in the way flesh is. And if the soul is older than the body, then it means something crucial. Your deepest identity is not your appearance, your age, your education, or your reputation. It is something eternal, something sacred, something that no hardship can erase. When you feel disconnected, lost, or afraid, it is not because you are weak. It is because the soul forgets under the weight of the world. It forgets its own age. The noise of the present moment can drown out the whispers of the ancient agreement you once made, but it doesn't change the truth. You came from somewhere, and that somewhere was holy. You carry that holiness even now, beneath the dust and doubt. Children often say things that seem strange to adults, like they've seen places they've never visited or spoken truths no one taught them. That's not always imagination. Sometimes it's remembrance. The soul remembers things the body cannot explain. It recognizes purpose before purpose is taught, and in those moments, whether in childhood or adulthood, there is a quiet alignment, as if your inner compass is trying to point you home. That's why some burdens feel heavier than others. Not because you're weaker, but because you're older in soul than the challenge before you. Your soul knows it's meant for more, which is why shallow living feels so unbearable. When you're not living in alignment with your deeper identity, even small things can feel crushing. It's not because you're lazy, it's because you're living beneath your truth. You may have been born into poverty, or into pain, or into patterns of dysfunction, but your soul agreed to step into time through that door. Why? Not to be broken by it, but to transform it. You didn't choose your body, but your soul chose its journey. It entered this world with sacred permission, and that permission carries responsibility. People often ask, "What's my purpose?" But that's not a question the mind can fully answer. Purpose is not found, it's remembered. That remembering doesn't happen all at once. It comes in flashes, a conversation that stirs something ancient in you, a dream that feels more real than waking life, a moment of peace that doesn't make logical sense. These are reminders that your life is not a blank slate, it's a continuation. If you've ever felt a sense of homesickness that you can't explain, a longing for something you've never seen but deeply miss, that is your soul reaching beyond time. That's not fantasy, that's insight. The body may live in a house, but the soul lives in meaning, and that meaning began long before you were born. Some people carry wisdom that seems too deep for their years. That's because age is measured in calendars, but maturity is measured in soul mileage. If you felt older than your peers, or if life has always placed you in situations that required you to act beyond your years, it's not because life is unfair. It's because your soul came here equipped. You were not sent here as a beginner. You came as someone with history, someone who carries echoes of eternity inside their chest. You may not remember every detail of what you agreed to before entering this life, but you don't need to. The evidence is already in your heart, in what breaks you, what moves you, what makes you feel alive. The soul reveals its mission, not through loud announcements, but through persistent nudges. You don't have to hear a voice from heaven to know who you are. You just need to listen to the quiet wisdom that lives beneath your fear. You are not behind. You are not late. You are walking the path your soul prepared for you long ago. Every mistake, every detour, every delay, it's all part of the journey back to the beginning, back to the one who sent you, and back to the agreement you made when your soul said, "Yes, I'll go." If the soul chose this journey before it began, then the events of your life are not merely accidents strung together. They are a woven tapestry of intent, design, and divine order. The people you met, the homes you grew up in, the places you've walked, the trials you've survived, they are not disconnected fragments. They are part of a sacred story unfolding. You may not understand every chapter while living it, but that doesn't make the story meaningless. Many of the things that break us seem senseless at first. Betrayals, losses, injustices. If you judge them too early, you'll think your life is out of control, but purpose is rarely seen in the moment. It's most visible in hindsight, when pain turns into wisdom, when rejection becomes redirection, when the pieces finally begin to align. The contract your soul signed did not guarantee clarity, but it did promise meaning. You were not born into your family by accident, even if you wish you had been born somewhere else. Whether you were raised with love or with silence, in plenty or in lack, the environment you were given became the soil for your calling. It either taught you what to become or showed you what to overcome. Some people grow because of love, others grow because they were starved of it. Both kinds of growth are real. You may wonder why you always seem to attract certain struggles, cycles of loneliness, anxiety, hardship, or self-doubt. But what if those patterns are not just random suffering? What if they're sacred signals pointing to the very thing you came to heal? The soul is often drawn to wounds it's meant to transform. The hardest parts of your life are usually connected to the most important part of your assignment. That's why comparison is so dangerous. You weren't sent here to live someone else's story. You weren't born to repeat someone else's timeline. Your path was designed with precision. Some people bloom early, others bloom later, and some don't bloom at all until they've been buried under failure and disappointment. But seeds grow in darkness before they ever reach the light. Delay is not denial, it's preparation. The frustrations that seem to hold you back may actually be holding you in place for something better. Closed doors aren't always rejection. Sometimes they are protection. You didn't come to this world to chase random opportunities. You came to fulfill a role, and that role comes with timing. The people who left you, the chances that slipped away, the jobs you didn't get, none of it was wasted if it led you closer to your assignment. There is a map written on your spirit that no one else can read, and because others can't see the design, they may misunderstand your steps, but they're not supposed to understand. The call on your life wasn't given to them. It was given to you. That means the voice inside you must be louder than the opinions around you. The moment you begin to trust the divine script, your peace returns, even in chaos. Some chapters of life feel like silence, like nothing is happening. But silence is not absence, it's incubation. Just because the fruit isn't visible doesn't mean the tree isn't growing. Even in seasons where everything feels still, something sacred is taking root inside you. Every delay, every detour, every quiet moment of uncertainty is part of the formation process. Gold is not made in comfort, it's formed in fire. There will be days where it seems like nothing makes sense. But that's where faith enters, not the blind kind that ignores reality, but the courageous kind that walks through reality with deeper eyes. When you remember that your life is scripted with intent, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this shaping in me?" The difference is subtle, but it will change everything. The soul doesn't seek comfort, it seeks completion. That's why you will never be fully satisfied by easy things. You were created with the weight of purpose on your shoulders. Even your longing for something more is a sign of your origin. Restlessness is often the voice of destiny calling you forward. You don't have to force life to make sense. You just have to stay faithful to the next step in front of you. Your life is not a random sequence of events. It's a divine orchestration, a sacred script that your soul helped write. The details may feel chaotic at times, but the author has not lost the plot. Every thread has meaning. Every turn has a reason. You are not just living, you are unfolding. If your life is not random, then neither are your trials. What feels like chaos to the body is often contract to the soul. The struggles you face weren't designed to break you. They were part of the agreement you made before arriving here. The soul, in its eternal clarity, did not choose ease. It chose evolution. It chose the path that would make it deeper, not just safer. The painful seasons that feel like unfair interruptions to your life are often the very conditions your soul requested for growth. You didn't come here asking for perfection. You came asking for transformation. And transformation doesn't happen in the light alone. It happens in the furnace, in the grief, in the confusion, in the hours where nothing makes sense, but you keep moving anyway. Some people ask why life gets harder the more they try to live with purpose. But purpose attracts resistance. The moment you start living with intent, Everything unlike your purpose will rise up to be challenged. That's not punishment, it's pressure, and pressure is how diamonds are formed. If your path is filled with tension, don't assume something's wrong. Often, it means something powerful is being built within you. You didn't just agree to the beauty of the story, you agreed to the battles too. Not because you wanted to suffer, but because you understood that struggle strengthens the spirit. Think of the muscles in the body. They grow through resistance. They don't grow when they're left alone. They grow when they are tested. Your soul works the same way. What breaks the surface of your life is allowed to, so that something unbreakable may rise beneath it. Pain often feels personal, but it's not always about you alone. Some trials you endure are generational. You carry not just your own weight, but the weight of those who came before you, the fear that held your parents back, the silence that swallowed your grandparents, the trauma that traveled through bloodlines, searching for someone strong enough to face it. If it came to you, it's because you are that someone. That's why some challenges feel unusually heavy. You're not just surviving for yourself. You're healing for people who never had the tools. You're walking through fire that others were too afraid to enter. That's part of your assignment, part of the soul contract. And though it may feel unfair, there is deep honor in it. The courage you show becomes permission for others to do the same. Many people try to run from difficulty, believing it means they've failed, but running from it doesn't erase it. It only delays the growth it's trying to offer. Challenges are not interruptions, they are invitations. Every struggle contains a lesson, a skill, a piece of wisdom that your future self will need. What feels like a storm today may become your shelter tomorrow, when someone else is drowning in what you've already survived. Even breakdowns are sacred when viewed through the lens of the soul. When life dismantles the version of you that was built on fear, performance, or people pleasing, it's not destroying you, it's stripping you back to your essence. You agreed to let go of what isn't real, even if it hurts. Sometimes the only way to remember who you are is to lose what you never were. There are moments when the pain is so intense that you question everything, including your faith, your worth, and your future. In those moments, the mind will scream, "This isn't right." But the soul will whisper, "This is necessary." The soul sees what the eyes cannot. It knows that the valley is just as sacred as the mountain. You didn't come here for the view alone. You came to climb. If you're tired, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're working. If you're hurting, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're becoming. Strength isn't loud. It's often quiet persistence. And every time you rise after falling, every time you keep going when it would be easier to give up, you're honoring the vow your soul made. Your challenges are not random. They are part of the curriculum, part of the sacred training ground your soul agreed to. And while the body may cry under pressure, the soul grows clearer. You may not have chosen the exact shape of your suffering, but you did agree to face whatever would make you whole. You did not come here to escape struggle. You came here to transform through it. If struggle is part of the soul's agreement, then power must be part of its preparation. You are not facing these battles empty-handed. Within you lies a strength that isn't visible to the world, but it is real. It doesn't depend on your physical energy, education, social status, or emotional stability. It is deeper than confidence and more enduring than willpower. It is the quiet power of presence, purpose, and divine inheritance. When your soul signed up to walk through this life, it didn't do so in weakness. It came equipped, not with immunity from pain, but with an inner compass that always points home, home to who you are, home to who you're becoming. The reason you haven't broken, even after everything that's tried to destroy you, is because you were built with something unshakable. Even in seasons where your voice trembles and your eyes can't stop weeping, something inside you refuses to collapse. That is the power we're talking about, The world may not recognize it because it doesn't fit its usual definitions of strength. It's not the power to control, dominate, or boast. It's the power to remain when it would be easier to escape. The power to speak truth when silence feels safer. The power to forgive when bitterness is justified. That power is not accidental. It's a divine deposit, a spark of the very breath that brought you into existence. You may not feel powerful, especially when life reduces you to survival mode, when you're just trying to make it through the day, when nothing seems to change and you're exhausted from pretending to be okay. But even in those moments, the power is not gone. It's hidden beneath the weight, waiting for you to remember it. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to give up. You were not created to be a victim of your circumstances. You were created to master them, not in pride, but in partnership. The soul does not walk this journey alone. The one who formed you didn't just send you, he sustains you. You are not merely surviving by chance. You are being upheld by something sacred, even when you feel abandoned. Just because you can't feel the strength doesn't mean it's not there. You don't always feel the roots of a tree, but they hold it through every storm. There will be moments when you think you've lost everything, moments when life strips you of what you thought was essential. Relationships, stability, dreams, even identity. But those are the moments when your real power begins to rise. The strength that comes not from what you have, but from who you are. That's the kind of power this world can't explain. If you've ever walked through heartbreak and still chose to love, you've touched it. If you faced fear and still took the next step, you've carried it. If you've been betrayed and didn't let it make you bitter, then you've already proven how powerful your soul really is. This kind of strength is not created through comfort. It's forged in the fire of your hardest days, and that fire is not meant to consume you. It's meant to refine you. What burns away is what's not needed. What remains is the essence, the truest version of you. The version that doesn't need approval to feel worthy. The version that doesn't need applause to keep going. The version that knows you carry something from heaven itself. This world will try to measure you by what it can see. Your bank account, your achievements, your appearance, your following. But none of those things define your true strength. Your real value can't be seen with the eyes. It's felt in the weight of your choices, the courage of your heart, the resilience of your soul. When people say, "I don't know how you made it through that," what they're really saying is, "I see your power even if you don't." And maybe that's the point. Sometimes we don't feel strong until we look back and realize we survived what should have broken us. We don't feel brave until we notice we kept walking through what we thought we couldn't face. You are not powerful because everything is going right. You are powerful because you are still standing when everything went wrong. Not because you avoided pain, but because you let it shape you. Not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful. You carry a power this world can't measure, because it didn't give it to you, and it can't take it away. If challenges are written into your agreement, then the strength to face them must be written into your soul. You were not sent here powerless. You were not chosen for struggle without also being equipped for it. The very fact that the obstacles are present is evidence that the power to overcome them is also present. But power doesn't always look like dominance or loud confidence. It often looks like endurance, resilience, and the ability to keep showing up even when no one sees you. The world teaches you to measure power by visibility. How many followers, how much money, how loud your voice is in the room. But the soul doesn't work that way. It's not interested in noise. It's built on depth. The strongest people are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are the ones carrying heavy things quietly. Sometimes they are the ones who never quit, even when they feel forgotten. Power, real power, is often invisible. But it's never absent. That's why you've survived situations that should have broken you. Even if you came out wounded, you still came out. Even if you walked through fire and your faith felt thin, you didn't burn. You didn't break beyond repair. There is something within you that can't be measured by your emotions. It's more stable than how you feel, more reliable than how others treat you. That something is the divine signature you carry. Your soul is not made of weakness. It's made of divine breath, and that breath does not expire. It doesn't shrink when circumstances change. It doesn't fade when people walk away. You may forget how strong you are, but the strength remains. And life, in its strange mercy, will keep revealing it to you, one storm, one test, one quiet morning at a time. If you've ever had a moment where you didn't know how to go on, but did anyway, you've touched this power. If you've ever cried in private and still faced the day, you've proved it. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood and still chose to be kind, to forgive, or to move forward, you've exercised it. These are not small acts. They are signs of something eternal operating within a temporary world. People often search for confidence in external things, degrees, roles, affirmations, but those things shift. They can be taken, lost, or discredited. The power you carry doesn't come from outside. It is not borrowed. It is not learned. It is embedded in your design. Your soul remembers things your mind forgets, especially when life becomes overwhelming. Even in weakness, there is strength. Even in uncertainty, there is a knowing. And yet, power doesn't make you immune to fear. It allows you to face it. It doesn't remove struggle. It enables you to rise within it. You will feel moments of exhaustion. You will have seasons where your strength feels like it has run out. But power isn't proven by your ability to avoid weariness. It's revealed in your decision to continue despite it. This is why you cannot compare your journey with someone else's. You don't know the weight they carry, and they don't know yours. Some people are carrying visible pressure. Others are holding invisible battles inside. But what matters is not what can be seen. It's what is carried with faith. The soul is never without what it needs, even when the body feels fragile and the heart feels broken. When you see someone surviving something unthinkable, you're witnessing the mystery of soul power. When someone loses everything and still finds the will to hope, that's strength the world cannot calculate, and you have that same power, not because you feel it every moment, but because you were created with it. It exists deeper than your surface, and it cannot be erased by your circumstances. You don't need the world to recognize your strength for it to be real. The proof is in your persistence. The fact that you're still here, still thinking, still reaching, still trying, that's evidence enough. You don't have to roar to be powerful. Sometimes just breathing with intention, just showing up again, just refusing to quit is the greatest display of power the world will never understand. You were not just given a body. You were given a sacred core, and that core holds power no title, no enemy, no mistake can take from you. You carry it even now, quietly, completely, consistently. You carry a power this world can't measure. If you carry a power the world can't measure, then you also carry the freedom to choose how you use it. That's the tension built into the soul contract. You were given free will. You're not a puppet, not a pre-programmed machine. You were given the ability to choose love or resentment, faith or fear, truth or convenience, and that freedom is sacred, but it doesn't mean you're meant to walk this life alone. Too many people confuse free will with independence. They assume that if they have the power to choose, then they're expected to figure everything out on their own. But your ability to choose doesn't cancel out divine companionship. The agreement you made before entering this world wasn't just a solitary mission. It was a partnership. The one who breathed life into you didn't send you away. He walks with you even when he's silent. There are moments in life where silence feels like absence. You pray, and there's no immediate response. You cry, and the only answer is stillness, but silence isn't abandonment. It's a different kind of presence. When a teacher is silent during the test, it's not because they've left the classroom. It's because they already gave you what you need. The test is proof that you've been taught, And when you face your greatest battles, heaven's silence may be the deepest form of trust. You have the freedom to ignore that trust. You can walk away, numb yourself, bury your soul under noise and distraction. That too is your right, but even in those moments you're not alone. Divine presence is not conditional on your awareness. You may close your eyes to it, but it never closes its eyes to you. You are followed, not in force, but in faithfulness. This is what makes your strength possible, not just inner resilience, but constant support. The power within you is not self-manufactured, it's sustained. The same force that designed galaxies designed your breath. That power doesn't abandon its creation. You are not asked to be strong all the time. You're asked to stay open, to lean when you can't stand, to ask when you don't understand, to cry out instead of shutting down. Some people carry the false belief that struggling is a sign of spiritual failure. They think if they're overwhelmed, they must have taken a wrong turn, but free will means you'll sometimes feel lost. It means you'll make choices that lead to pain, and yet even your detours are not wasted. The contract you signed was never about perfection, it was about persistence. You're not expected to live without error. You're expected to live with intention, even in your imperfections. It's easy to feel isolated when life doesn't unfold the way you expected. When dreams delay, when relationships end, when the answers don't come, isolation whispers that you're forgotten. But feeling alone and being alone are not the same. You may feel unseen by people, but you are never out of sight from the one who shaped your purpose. Your journey is still monitored. Your tears are still noticed. Your heart is still known. That is the beauty of this agreement. Your free will gives you room to wrestle. You can doubt. You can fall. You can wander. But you cannot erase the presence that walks beside you. You can't fail grace. You can't run love. The soul may choose its own way, but the one who made it still walks in the background, patiently waiting, gently guiding, quietly protecting, and that guidance doesn't always come in loud moments. Often it's disguised in the ordinary, an encouraging word from a stranger, a door that closes just in time, a delayed plan that saves you from harm. These are not accidents, they're reminders. You are still covered even when you forget you're chosen. People think they must earn divine presence by doing everything right, but the agreement you made was not performance-based, it was relationship-based, and like any deep relationship, it allows space for struggle without abandonment. You're allowed to question without being disqualified, you're allowed to wrestle without being removed. So yes, you have free will, you can make the wrong choice, you can say no, you can take a longer route. But you are never walking it alone. Whether you rise or fall, speak or stay silent, walk boldly or crawl slowly, you are still accompanied, not because you're worthy every moment, but because the one who walks with you is faithful every moment. Free will doesn't separate you from the divine. It simply proves that love is never forced, and presence, real presence, is never earned. It is promised. You are not alone. You were never expected to be. If you were never meant to walk alone, then it makes sense that forgetting your connection weakens you, and the opposite is also true. Remembering it renews your strength. You don't need to create power from nothing. You need to return to what was already placed inside you. The moment you begin to remember why you came, the fog lifts. The moment you recall that this life was never random, that your pain has purpose, your spirit straightens its back. You begin to walk differently, not because your problems disappear, but because your posture changes. You are not just a body with a beating heart. You are a soul with an ancient agreement. That agreement wasn't about performance, it was about participation. You agreed to show up. You agreed to grow. You agreed to carry light in a world that forgets what light looks like. You didn't sign up for perfection. You signed up to remember, and remembering is what changes everything. In your darkest hours, it's not more motivation you need, it's clarity. Not a new identity, but a return to the one you already carry. Strength doesn't always come from external changes. It comes from internal reminders. The soul doesn't respond to pressure the same way the body does. The body gets tired, the emotions fluctuate, but the soul knows, the soul remembers, and the more you lean into that memory, the stronger you become. You've seen it happen in moments you didn't expect. You hear a sentence in a conversation, and suddenly it wakes something inside you. You walk into a quiet place, and the stillness reminds you that you're not alone. You see someone rise from a pain you also carry, and something in your chest whispers, "You can do it too." That's not coincidence. That's memory, that's your contract speaking through the cracks. Every spiritual battle is first a battle of forgetting. The more disconnected you become from your reason for being here, the more vulnerable you feel. That's when fear gets louder. That's when doubt seems more reasonable. That's when you shrink into habits that don't reflect your identity. But when you remember, when you truly remember that your soul chose this path for a reason, you begin to rise again. That's why stillness matters, not because silence makes life easier, but because silence helps you hear the deeper voice, the one that doesn't shout but still speaks. You're not always going to find your strength in busyness. Sometimes it's hiding in your ability to sit quietly with yourself and trace the thread back to your purpose, not to what you do, but to why you are here. And it's not just the big things that bring you back. It's the small patterns of truth, when you forgive someone who didn't say sorry, not because they deserve it, but because your soul doesn't carry bitterness well. When you tell the truth even though lying would be easier, not for a reward, but because the truth fits you better. When you care for someone who cannot pay you back, not for attention, but because your agreement always included compassion. In those moments, you are remembering, and with every act of remembrance, your strength returns piece by piece. You may not be able to explain it to others. They may not understand why your eyes light up when you talk about certain things, or why you walk away from opportunities that don't feel aligned. But it's not for them to understand. It's between you and the one who sent you. It's between you and the vow your soul made in silence, before your body ever took its first breath. This is why some people feel empty even when everything in their life looks successful. Because success doesn't fill a soul that's forgotten its contract. There is no amount of applause that can replace alignment. There is no promotion, no title, no recognition that can substitute for remembrance. Until you reconnect with the deeper why, everything else feels temporary, and that reconnection isn't a one-time event. It's a rhythm. You'll forget and remember again. You'll drift and return. And each time you return, you'll find that your strength was never gone. It was simply waiting behind the noise. The courage to keep going doesn't always come from fixing the outside. Sometimes it just comes from whispering to yourself, "I remember why I'm here." You're not starting from scratch. You're returning to the contract, and every time you remember it, not just with your mind, but with your choices, you begin to walk like someone who cannot be stopped. Because when a soul remembers, strength is no longer a question. It becomes your nature.